Welcome back to ASVAB Roadmap. In this video, we'll be discussing how to study for the ASVAB. These are the things you should know before you start studying for the ASVAB. We'll go over topics such as, what is the AFQT, minimum scores for each service, and how to study for these sections. Let's get started. What is AFQT? Why should you focus on the AFQT score? The Armed Forces Qualification Test, AFQT for short, is used by all of the services to determine if an applicant is eligible for the military. 4 of the ASVAB subtests are combined to form the AFQT. It measures general cognitive ability and is composed of verbal and mathematics subtests. Each branch of the U.S. military has its own minimum standards when it comes to the ASVAB scores and education levels needed to qualify. As of 2018, these are the standards for each of the services for scoring on the ASVAB, as well as education levels. Air Force recruits must score at least 36 points on the ASVAB. Exceptions may be made, however, for a handful of high school graduates who can score at least a 31. The vast majority of those accepted for Air Force enlistment achieved a score of 50 or above. Your chances of joining the Air Force without graduating from high school are very slim. Even with the GED, the chances are just not good. Only about half of 1% of all Air Force enlistments each year are GED holders. To even be considered for one of these very few slots, a GED holder must score a minimum of 65 on the AFQT. And as a side note, the Air Force allows a higher enlistment rank for recruits with college credit. The Army requires a minimum AFQT score of 31 to qualify for enlistment. To qualify for certain enlistment incentives, such as enlistment bonuses, an Army recruit must score a minimum of 50. The Army allows more recruits to enlist with a GED than any other branch. The Army even has a special program called Army Prep School that allows individuals to enlist who have no high school diploma or GED. Like the Air Force, the Army also offers higher enlistment ranks for recruits with college experience. Marine Corps recruits must score at least 32 on the ASVAB. Very few exceptions are made for some otherwise qualified recruits who could score at least 25. As with the Air Force, those without a high school education are generally ineligible. The Marine Corps limits GED enlistments to no more than 5% per year. Those with the GED must score a minimum of 50 on the AFQT to even be considered. Navy recruits must score at least 35 on the AFQT. Reserve enlistment programs only require a score of 31. Like the Air Force, the Navy accepts few recruits who don't have a high school diploma. To be considered for enlistment with a GED, you must score a minimum of 50 on the AFQT. You must also have no drug use on your record and at least 3 references from influential members of the community. Any police involvement other than minor traffic offenses will also disqualify a GED applicant. The Coast Guard requires a minimum of 40 points on the AFQT. A waiver is possible if the recruit's ASVAB line scores qualify them for a specific job and the recruit is willing to enlist in that job. For a very few who will be allowed to enlist with a GED, the minimum AFQT score is a 50. As we've said here before, you should put the most focus on the 4 main ASVAB sections that make up the AFQT score. These sections of the ASVAB will determine what branch you qualify for and what jobs you can work. These are the sections that we will teach you in this course because these are the sections that will determine your actual score, as well as your future in the military. Head to the next section to begin your training.